comic books leader! Fight for justice that is blind. An advocate, not a Terminator! With the awesome power of his mind. He speaks for the devil in red!
This is the Fan Without Fear Completist Retrospective. My name is Nick, the Fan Without Fear. Let's take a look at what's on our radar for today. Daredevil number 7, in mortal combat with the Sub-Mariner. Today we are looking at my favorite comic book from the entire Silver Age of comic books, because this book defines Matt Murdock as a character. This story is essentially about refusing to give up. When we look at Matt Murdock, the man without fear, it is important to remember we are dealing with a man. He is not an alien supercharged by the yellow sun of the earth, nor a scientist whose own creation released an unstoppable monster from within. His own radioactive accident did not give Matt the kind of strength or power we traditionally associate with a superhero. Instead, it unlocked and opened up his senses, leaving his body and mind as human and as vulnerable as yours or mine. Daredevil's actions carry far greater risk than other costumed heroes because physically he is only as strong and as durable as any real-life athlete. When we call Daredevil a man without fear, we are talking about a man who constantly puts himself in the path of great danger, not because he is the strongest, but because he is the most willing, because despite his disadvantages, he truly believes above all else in doing anything he can to help people and see justice done. From the first issue of Daredevil, we saw a boy who refused to give up, and overcame the adversity of his perceived disability to become a successful professional. The 7th issue of Daredevil cements the boy who wouldn't give up as a superhero who will never give up. In the 1960s, author Stan Lee and illustrator Wallace Wood were working with the newest underdog in the growing Marvel universe. What do you do with an underdog? Naturally, they matched him up for a fight against one of Marvel's all-time greatest champions, Prince Namor, the Avenging Son, Namor the First, Imperious Rex the Sub-Mariner. Along with Captain America himself, Namor the Sub-Mariner is one of the few mainstream Marvel characters to endure from what comic book historians refer to as the Golden Age of comics. When we talk about the main Marvel universe, sometimes called Earth 616 by nerds, we are talking about over 5 decades of stories beginning during the Silver Age of comics with 1961's Fantastic Four #1. Meaning Namor as a character actually predates the Marvel Universe, with his first appearance in 1939 and his adventures throughout the Golden Age. Created by Bill Everett, who we recognize as co-creator of Daredevil, Namor is a mutant hybrid, the son of a human sea captain and a princess from the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. Extremely strong and able to fly by the power of little wings on his ankles, Namor fought everyone, from Nazis to robot invaders from Venus. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby brought Namor into the Silver Age with Fantastic Four #4. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, finds Namor living with amnesia. Once returned to the water, the Sub-Mariner regained his memory. He is the supreme monarch of the ocean, Prince of Atlantis, second only to the slumbering godlike King Neptune himself. And I know some of you out there are more familiar with DC Comics' Aquaman as the King of Atlantis, but I'm sorry, Namor came first. Despite the fact he was always the antagonist of these early stories, Namor was always presented as a noble and heroic figure. For a long time, his role in the universe of heroes and villains was somewhat ambiguous, and he remains a difficult superhero to classify. A force of nature unto himself, the Sub-Mariner is one of the most physically strong characters in classic Marvel. In a short amount of time, the Sub-Mariner would have a number of battles alone against the powerful Fantastic Four, and he would also stand against the Avengers and the X-Men. Daredevil number 7 opens with Namor atop his underwater throne, pressured by Krang, the warlord of Atlantis, to attack the surface world and reclaim the land of the Earth through conquest. The monarch resolves to go to the surface world alone and pursue his claim to the Earth through the human legal system. Now, one comment on the art by Wally Wood in this issue. I love Jack Kirby's legendary artwork as much as everyone else does, but in my opinion, Wallace Wood's interpretation of the regal Namor and the warriors of Atlantis rivals Jack Kirby's iconic Silver Age Namor. The law firm of Nelson and Murdoch could be said to specialize in superpowered clients. As comic book writing has evolved, Matt's obvious interest in representing super beings has been established in story. But oddly, in the 1960s, Stan Lee would go way out of the way to bring clients to Nelson and Murdoch by complete coincidence. The Owl picked them from a phone book at random. They were court-appointed to the Purple Man, and now the Prince of Atlantis marches into a tall building, assuming there will be a law office somewhere inside, and happens on Nelson and Murdoch first, again by random chance. Matt and Foggy are open to taking Namor as a client, but don't know of a legal way to sue for dominion over the planet Earth. Characteristically taking matters into his own hands, the prince decides the fastest way to be heard in a court of law is to allow himself to be arrested, and awesomely, the Sub-Mariner goes on a rampage. Matt helps put a temporary stop to Namor's destruction, donning his brand new red Daredevil costume. This is the first appearance of Matt's iconic red costume, which was completely redesigned by artist Wallace Wood in this issue. Daredevil number 7 also introduces the grappling hook capability of Matt's Billy Club, which allows him to swing around the city in another undeniable parallel to Spider-Man. In a daring leap from the sky, Matt thinks to himself, if he falls, Foggy will have to find a new law partner. You may write this off as a joke, but to my mind, this morbid sense of humor is a common trait among real people with self-destructive or thrill-seeking compulsions. As a completist, I look at these panels as some of the earliest examples of Matt's struggles with mental health, which will be more directly explored in the decades to come. In this almost literal fish-out-of-water story, Namor has difficulty observing the rules of the court and is impatient with the slow legal process. Soon, the Sub-Mariner learns Krang has used his absence to stage a coup in Atlantis, and the prince liberates himself from prison. Daredevil knows the Sub-Mariner poses mortal danger to the militiamen who are duty-bound to block his escape, and again selflessly engages the far superior foe, not because he thinks he can win, but because he does not want anyone else to be hurt. Knowing his only hope is to outmaneuver the powerful Avenging Sun, Daredevil makes every effort to be clever and resourceful. The Crimson Crusader creates a pink smoke screen from a Billy Club gadget, nearly falls to his death by holding down Namor's ankle wings, swings in on a wrecking ball like a dressed Miley Cyrus, and even attempts to electrocute the prince. Ultimately, Matt's body succumbs to exhaustion. Though he physically cannot continue to fight, Daredevil literally crawls after Namor, making every last effort to drag his own battered body after the Monarch to save the lives of the militia soldiers who stand in his path. Touched by the spirit of the man without fear, the noble Namor resolves to leave in peace, and out of respect returns to the sea without harming anyone else. For me, this is the defining moment of Matt Murdock as the superhero Daredevil. A man who refuses to retreat from impossible odds because he is not afraid to give everything he has if it means he can help other people. There is a strong moral here about the good people can do for each other when we are uninhibited by fear. It is not strength or powers or a cape which make a hero. A hero is any one of us who is not afraid to try when other people need help. That was my favorite comic book from the entirety of the Silver Age. But we have a lot more exciting issues to talk about, so make sure you subscribe. Also, leave a comment. We want to know what you think. Until next time, always live without fear.